compression is upon us. Compression is here. That said, compression isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's not. Compression actually might be the savior of this industry. My CEO, Tim Armstrong, talked about this at AdTech in San Francisco earlier. And he said that this was really going to be a place where AOL focused on solving. And I completely agree with Tim that this is an area where we internally had to do a lot of work. And in order to amplify what we did, we need to work with all of our competitors and partners and people in the advertising ecosystem to make it better. So compression might make our industry thrive. And the reality is that the big guys shouldn't do everything. They can't do everything, and they won't do everything. But if the ecosystem doesn't allow people to bring value in, they're necessarily pushing them out. And the reality of that is that they're choking off our own innovation and our own future. So I guess what I'm saying in sort of no small words is that having an ecosystem is going to be the only way that we thrive in the future. Unless we all want to see an oligopoly with a very, very few number of people controlling everything. I don't think that that's good for this industry. I don't think it's good for our advertisers, and I don't think it's good for our publishers. We have a vibrant ecosystem that creates a lot of innovation and value, but we need to scale it. So for those of you who are sick of seeing the Lumascape slide, I would like to offer my alternative. Not the first alternative today, but this is mine. We don't have an ecosystem. We have a shark tank. We're all sharks. And you know what we're doing? We're all biting each other's fins off. And there's this gigantic, like 50,000-pound blue whale called television, unprotected, swimming by us. And all we have to do is gang up and have lunch. But we're too busy in eating each other's fins. That's really what's happening here. Funny visual. Terry actually helped me come up with that. So thank you, Terry. So what I wanted to do is give you sort of my realities of compression. So the first thing is, if you don't scale, you're going to lose. I don't know how many people read Jim Collins out there, but I don't remember the title of his latest book. I'm like halfway through it. But he was saying to me that, in the book, through his beautiful words, that you don't win by being the most innovative. Microsoft wasn't the most innovative. Google wasn't the most innovative. There were people that did search before it. There were people who did operating systems before Microsoft. But they both took innovation and scaled it better than anybody else. As an industry, we need to scale our innovation in order to be successful. The second thing is that you need to be global. If you're not global, you lose. You might think that this is a corollary to point one, but the reality is it's so important it deserves its own. The rapid growth of tablets, smartphones, mobile, what have you, it is massive globally. Without being global, there's really no chance to survive here. The third thing is sort of the one that's closest and dearest to my heart, which is if you're not a part of somebody else's ecosystem, and you don't allow people to become part of your ecosystem, you're going to lose. You need to think, are you the person standing alone as a stack versus everybody else who's going to be building on top of each other's shoulders next to you? Or do you stand by yourself as well as plug in where appropriate? So at this point, I hope I've convinced you all that compression is inevitable, but not necessarily a bad thing. What I wanted to say is that when we unify and create an ecosystem, there's a lot of benefits. There's a lot of benefits. What happens is we actually crawl on each other's backs to accomplish things that we couldn't do individually. That's really what I'm getting to. Individually, none of us are going to get $75 billion away from television. But together, like the ants, we could climb on each other's backs to accomplish something that we couldn't do by ourselves. So I'll go back to AOL for a moment. About 2 years ago was the first time when I would really consider AOL to be open. It was a long, difficult, tumultuous process. We looked around inside. We had a lot of false starts. But the reality was the strategy we decided was not to fix product A, B, and C so that they worked together. That was not what we did. What we decided to do was build our own internal mini ecosystem. That was the strategy. That was what we thought was going to allow us to scale digital advertising. That's our mission. digital advertising at scale. And by virtue of building this composable internal platform, we began to see the operating leverage that we were missing earlier. We began to be able to configure our products in our suites differently for different customers to be able to solve for new scenarios. And we've been able to give our customers APIs so that they can begin on the periphery and then even deeper as time went on to integrate into our ecosystem and make us a bigger part of their business. So when we get to an open ecosystem, what's the payoff? Doesn't this just cement one or two big players on the bottom and then all of us sit on top? Well, the reality is there's a phenomenon called the network effect. Humankind really saw this explode when the telephone was invented. And the theory goes like this. If I own a telephone and it's on a universal telephone network, the value of my phone becomes proportionally greater when any other phone is added to the network. Well, that's what happens in ad tech. If we create an open ecosystem, each of our companies becomes proportionally more valuable when someone enters the ecosystem, and we don't have to do anything. That's the beauty of an open ecosystem, and I think we can all agree that this is not what we have today, but it's something worth striving for.